So today, I like to talk about Black American youth and Black American youth and our people who chase dreams and talents that don't give them paid. Um, I'm gonna tell you a story of myself. I never told anybody this on social media. No one really knows this about me. Um, Most of my close friends don't know this. Even my own children don't know this. I never told it to my children. But um, I was considered as a kid one of these musical talented children. Um, I never really told anybody about this. I never wrote about it or shared it with anybody. But at a young age, maybe around 11, 12, I was considered to be the type of people or children is considered to be musically talented. So music was one of my first passions as a child. I really had a love for classical music. Um, I grew up here in New York. I had a babysitter when I was young, where her son, who was also musically talented, used to play a lot of classical music. He used to play the violin, the piano, and things like this. And as a child, small, before school age, I used to always hear the music and see it. Um, have somewhat a love for it, and that's related to usually children first experience with things. They tend to like it out of curiosity. But a, a little bit about me is that the music, which was classical music, um, I did have some talents. Most kids in my area, and I grew up in I born in the late 80s, I mean the late 70s, 78, and I grew up in the 80s. So I grew up through the era of the crack epidemic cross over into the AIDS epidemic. I grew up in that. All right. I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, New York, and Jamaica, Queens was well-known area for crack cocaine. It was very well-known area for what people would know as the Supreme Team. If you look them up, you'll find exactly who about them. I think Hulu or Netflix is about to do a special on them. The Supreme Team. This is the number one drug dealers in this area back in the 80s. So I grew up in that era in the 80s where the crack epidemic and the AIDS epidemic crossed over. And I could remember as a child, um, I had a friend of mine's, we was kids in the neighborhood, where a lot of my friends, when I grew up with, mother or parents died from AIDS. And unfortunately, some of them were people who were smoking crack. So I could remember as a kid that a lot of the kids I grew up with, they moved from, due to their parents dying from AIDS. I had a friend of mine. I remember when Atari came out when I was a kid. We used to go to his house and play Atari. I remember his mother and some of the kids who used to go to our house. Some of these kids, including my friend mother, also died from AIDS back then. And unfortunately, some of the kids that we used to play at his house, Atari, their mother, one of them, their mother, she died from AIDS, and she also was a crackhead. I can remember these things growing up. These memories are still with me. You know, children that you see one day, and then the next day they just disappear. So I remember that very, very good. That's still with me today, and I'm in my mid 40s now. Um, Unfortunately, the crack epidemic and HIV and AIDS epidemic, because back then it wasn't HIV until later on. It took out a lot of people. Even the person who I said I heard or got a love for the classical music, even that person died from AIDS in the early 90s. And that babysitter who took care of me, her son died from AIDS, and the babysitter also died from AIDS back in 2002. Alhamdulillah, some of us got her to take Shahada before she died. So, for a lot of African Americans in America, music is a escapism. If you're not familiar with Black people's culture in America or history, please don't leave no comment on my page. Don't leave no comment in my comment section. Oh, this is haram, that is haram. You talking to somebody who's a former imam and I studied Deen in and out. I already know these things are haram. I'm talking about Black people's experience. So make sure you don't leave no comments on my stuff. So a lot of Blacks in the US, music is an escape from the realities of what's going on. Dysfunction, um, systemic racism, uh, locked out of finances. And if you go further back in history, in the US, for many Black musicians, and I'm talking about like jazz and Black music, this was the only way out for many of these people. So it was a medium for Black to get out of the ghetto for some particular Black music like jazz, other form of country music. These were the only opportunities that Blacks were allowed to advance in, and and ironically, whites didn't have the same talents as Blacks, but unfortunately, even the Black musicians, the people who owned their music were white people. But it was a escapism. Music for Black people in America was escapism, and it was also for some Blacks a means of financial success or out of poverty because the U.S. government didn't give Black people financial opportunities as it gave white peoples and immigrants who came to this country. So music for a lot of Black people was a mean of money and a means of escapism from racism in the U.S. and oppression. It's a way to um, forget about it. So for me, in those years as a kid, that music was a form of escapism. And I'm not talking about hip hop, even though I was a big follower, big fan of hip hop. I was talking about hip hop, classic music, right? So most kids in my area at my age, I had the opportunity not to go to school in the Black area. I did go to school maybe for kindergarten, first grade, but I eventually left and went to through charter school. I eventually went to school in a white area, Whitestone. This is in Queens, New York. And people's are racist, but Whitestone is a little bit different today. A lot of Muslims, a lot of people of color in College Point in this Whitestone area. But it's white, it's racist. Matter of fact, the Black kids that went to the school the year before me, they was met with white people's rioting and picketing. So you gotta remember, this is the early 80s, like 82, right? And New York is very much segregated and the schools are very much segregated. So back in the 80s, I could remember when I first went to this school, some of the youth Black kids who went to the school the year before me, they had to go through a lot of picketing and racist white people and things like this. You know, this is New York. New York is a very segregated and racist area to this day. So when I was in school as a youth, elementary school at this particular time, I didn't mean a lot. I did get into a lot of awkward things with teachers, a lot of racism, a lot of stereotype of blacks. And I had one teacher who was a music teacher who was into singing. You know, black culture, we like singing. She used to always like, nah, man, you ain't got no talent. And she always bothered me. So I had took it on my own, not my own, but at that time, I believe my mother put me into a music school. I keep on getting knocked off. I don't know why. So when I was in the music school, I mean, when I was in the, elementary school, I started going to this particular church. This church was Salvation Army, actually. Um, I started taking music lessons maybe at the age of 10 or 11. Um, I probably mastered a few brass instruments. So I was able to pick up skills in playing any brass instrument, right? Salvation Army have a different genre of classical music. And by the time I got into junior high school, I entered to a school band in school, and I learned some other brass instrument like trombone, baritone, horn. But in the Salvation Army, I learned some other type of classical music and other type of instruments. Some people are not familiarized with them, right? They're very close to like the trumpet. We call it the cornet, the euphomia. That's very close to the baritone horn. So any brass instrument, I learned how to play, and I learned what you call how to read music. So music for music, there's different forms of reading of music. You have the bass clef and treble clef. I learned all these things growing as a kid, mastered them. Um, and most kids, when I got into junior high and was a music band, I excel even there because that's also different genre of music related to classic and band music. There is a different genre, different type of instruments. So I learned different brass instruments in there. I excel very well. I was also the school had an orchestra. I used to play in the school orchestra and the school band. And then outside of school, I used to take lessons and I used to go to the Salvation Army. In the summertime, I used to go to music camps just for kids who were have certain talents for music, playing classical music. I used to go to these type of camps, right? To make a long story short, so I think I got around the eighth grade, no, the ninth grade, and I was looking to go to a high school that was specialized in music because I spent a lot of efforts. I mean, I could remember summer. I used to spend summers going to a camp just for classical music, upstate New York. I can remember to this day these camps. And I used to have a lot of fun there. So a lot of my talents excel outside of the school. And then on top of that, my mother used to pay for me to have private teachers on top of that, right? Um, and I learned how to play any brass instrument, and I mastered at least three of them, right? because I understood at a young age, jack of all trade is the master of none. But even for a music teacher in school, the music teacher, she learns or he learns how to play all the instruments. That's when a person go to college for these things. They learn how to play all these instruments to teach music in school setting, right? So I picked up majority of any brass instrument I could play, and I mastered at least three. I had to be about 13 or 14 years old at that time. Um, I could even remember my teacher for school. Her name is Miss Chaplin. I never forget. She was a Jewish lady. She should always cry every time I got suspended from school. Even though I loved music, I was a bad kid. I remember one time this white girl set me up and I got suspended. Right now, it was this Puerto Rican girl. She tried to stab me with a knife. I knocked her out. So they suspended me from school. I'll never forget, man. That teacher, man, Miss Chaplin, she used to always cry. She used to beg the principal, don't suspend me. She used to be crying, oh man, I don't want you to get suspended from school. You know, I to this day I never forget her, man. I was 44. She used to pick me up when we had concerts. Always drop me off at home sometimes, and she would always collect the black kids in the school and do things with them and stuff like that. And she used to take us out, to dinners and things like that. And I used to get in trouble from school or suspended, and we had a concert. She would talk to the principal, let me go play in the concert and things like that. I never forget of Miss Chaplin. So I had the opportunity, even then, outside of the school, through the Salvation Army, which has what we call it, not a chapel, a cathedral in Manhattan. It's very big. And I used to go there in the cathedral and they should play also in their genre of classical music, which is had intermediate to advanced. So I should play a little bit in the intermediate to get into the advanced level, which is very hard. All right. So I got a taste of what a person do in professional, right? From the Salvation Army and their genre of classical music, because their genre of classical music is very different. Even the reading of the music was different. One instrument I would use, the type of music I would read it for, whether it be bass clef or treble clef. When I go to school, it would be a different form of reading of the music. Say I was reading treble clef in school, that same instrument I go with them, I might be reading bass clef. So you have to understand reading music and all this stuff, right? And I excelled a lot, and I tried out different instruments. So I at least had about 5 or 6 brass instruments. Then I went on the side, outside the school. My mother paid for me to learn winded instruments. So I like the saxophone, right? So this is what I'm gonna get to. So when I got to high school, um, I went to a specialized. I want to go to a specialized high school for music. And I noticed when I started doing a little of my homework, because back then we didn't have the internet. Um, I noticed that for this type of classical music, I didn't see a lot of black people involved in it. I wanted to get into a specialized high school. I had to take exams. One is musical, and the next exam is for academics. I passed the music part. The academic part, I didn't do too well on. I passed it, but they still didn't let me into school. Right. Uh, Later on, I figured out because they didn't want to have a lot of black kids in the school because it was also in another all-white neighborhood, all-white area, in Queens. So I did a little homework, and I never told people about this, but I did know somebody in the music industry, growing up. Used to be with Patti LaBelle. He had his own label, and they used to put me on as like, yo, for black people, the music industry for you is like the jazz type of music, like the music you see people from the group Roots, right? Anybody familiar with African American culture, you know who the Roots are. Even though the Roots, some of them they Muslim, right? So I really didn't have passion for it, but I went to learn it, and it was very different because in this genre, in this type of music, you have to learn how to play by ear, right? So I really start learning the saxophone. Didn't master it, but I really didn't like it a lot. And the classical type of music, um, I didn't get into the school. And for me to get another, like to go further for it, I had to come out my pocket or continue to do other things to practice. So I went to a high school that was all black. And like I said, in New York, the schools are very segregated, and you could tell the difference between the black schools and the white schools. So when I went to the black high school, I was kind of happy to get away from white people, whites, because I always got some beef with them in school, the principal or something, or the teachers always got some problems, when there's especially only a few black kids in the school. So I went to an all black high school. I know I got like a chance to breathe, but in reality, I start noticing in the black school that some of the academics and other elective courses like music and stuff, they was way behind. So I went to their school band and it was like in a closed room in the basement or in the attic. That room is so hot. It was like a small little room. I said nobody could play music in this spot. And it had the heat, the radiators we call them, was so hot that you be sweating. I'm like, oh, I ain't staying in this room, man. Are you crazy? I ain't staying in here. So I left them alone. I continued to do private lessons, and I was also into a lot of sports, organized sports back then. But basically, I started doing some homework, and I started noticing that some of these things I love, there's no money in it for black people. There's no money in it for black people. And then I met some individuals who was into classical music who was black. When they went to college, they did not major in those subjects because they said there's no money in it for black people. The reason why I'm telling this story is that because, you know, sometimes I be on a train in New York and I see a lot of black entertainers, young people, they dance, and they dance for money on the train or on the streets and these things. And one day I bumped into one of them who was very aggressive with the people, and he was saying like, yo, at least I'm following my dreams. He was saying that to the people on the train. Yeah, guys, go to work, you hate your job, but at least I'm following my dreams. And I was saying to myself, yeah, but you can't get no money. Your dreams are not paying your bills. These passions of yours, in reality, it's not helping you financially. And then you don't have enough common sense or education to take your dreams and market your dreams through an academic education where you know how to organize yourself or have your own business or industry. So even though you're passionate about this thing, it doesn't make you money. That was my wake up call when I started noticing that in that genre or that classical music, I didn't see black people. You know, one day, maybe a couple of months ago, or last summer, I think, last summer, I was by Columbus University. This is in Manhattan. Columbus University actually is right there next to Harlem, in Harlem, West Side Harlem, on Amsterdam. So one day I was with my kids over there, and across the street from Columbus University, there is a musical college. When I go by there, the musical college, it's like glass door. You can see everything in the college. It's a very small college, right? And I was walking through there, and I noticed something. I didn't see not even one black face, not even one black face. And even when I used to perform outside of my school, in high school and junior high, I was in places where I was the only black person. It's not a field for black people, even though there's black people's in it today, right? The point of the story, we have a lot of people in the black community. We chase things or dreams or have talents in certain things that in reality, it doesn't get bills paid. Or we have on another end, uh, all the black youth want to be athletes, rap music, and in reality, out of maybe 100 people, or every 500 people, maybe one of them make it to the NBA, NFL, and or have a professional career in music. So, out of 1 out of 100 for this example, how it looks like when have everybody or all the youth in the community, all of them focusing to learn this particular thing, and it only allows out of 500 people one person in it. That's the other side of the scenario that many of us we need to start discussing in the black community. Because if we don't see these realities, it goes back to the guy seen on the train. This guy was mad with people because they didn't want to give him money for him dancing on the train. And he's telling them, you go to jobs that you hate, but I'm doing what I love. And I'm like, yo, but you begging for money. And what you love, don't put money in your pocket. You know how many people dancing, black people or minorities into the dancing? You think there's real money in the dancing industry, in the music industry? And then we have a certain, then we could look back and we could say, and I could say to a certain point that I can understand why blacks we are until this or have this type of culture, because once upon a time this was the only thing blacks were allowed to get into once upon a time in America. But we live in a time now that there are things, there are genres or fields that we are able to get that will make us money, but there are some of these fields that we need as a black community. To this day, I never told my kids this story about me as a kid in music. I never told them. You know why I never told them? One, as a Muslim, the music is haram as a Muslim. Two, I don't want my kids waste their time into this. I never told my kids this story because I don't want to tell my kids this story because I don't want them to waste their time in the music, because it's not going to get them where they need to go in this society. And then we already have in a society where our youth in the black community, all of them want to be hip hoppers, rappers, into the music, into sports, and we have too many black people into sports already. And then those black individuals who are into the sports, most of them don't give back to their community or don't know how to. We need doctors in our community. We need engineers in our community. We need people who could build. We need pioneers. We need people who could see into the future and know that what we will need in our community to be successful. And there's even another side to this, but I'm not going to get in today because I see that my phone doesn't want to. The batteries are going dead, so it keep on flicking on and off. But we need to have another discussion, even as in the Muslim community, because we have even in the Muslim community amongst African American, everybody want to be Sheikh. Everybody want to be like Sheikh bin Baz and Sheikh Al-Albani. And this is another issue in the community because you have a lot of people saying they want to be this, and they're not actually doing none of these things properly. And then the few who are able to go study religion and come back with some knowledge, a lot of them are stagnated when it comes to building the community. And some of them don't have a community that could actually pay them a salary to be an imam. And most likely, some of them go get a 9 to 5. And I have seen some of them who are very talented, and the Lord bless them with knowledge. They go to communities where they originally don't come from, and they're helping other people from other nationalities in their community while they neglect their own people back in the black community. And they flee from them because they're not able to pay them a salary. So they go to the communities that actually don't need them because they have their own shuyukh into level out. That's a whole nother discussion for another day, inshallah. It's not the same as the music and stuff. We know as in Islam, the music is haram, la yajuz, it is not permissible. But I gave this story because we have a lot of black youth who put a lot of emphasis and time and dreams or talents that there is no benefit from them. Dunyawiya or akhriya, or dunyawiya or diniya. There is no benefit in it from the dunya point of view or from the religious point of view or for the akhirah or for the hereafter. There is no benefit from it, needed for themselves and needed from the people of their community. Maybe I'll do a part two because if we look at even the music industry that blacks are into today, is part of the destruction of the black community because they spread the music that talks about destroying and killing and fighting and murdering other black people, which also destroys the mental state, the mental being, and thinking of the youth in our community. And then we're going to say this, and somebody, son or daughter, said this is a career they want to get into. Destructive. Destructive for the one who is doing it, and destructive for the one who is listening to it. That's another whole discussion on its own in that type of industry. So I'll leave on that note. If you like what I had to say, you want to hear more, please click like and share this story. And if you want to see more, please donate to Black American Muslims. You can find me Muslim Opinions. You can find it on my PayPal or my Cash App. Soon, I will have a fundraiser for Black American Muslim Opinion. We're going to post it on the website. Um, some phases of donations. I'm working right now with a sister. We're going to start. We are actually working on the 501c3, and we have some other projects that we are working on. And I definitely would need the help of the community. When the fundraiser will go up, I will post it on the website. I'm most likely going to put it in the homepage menu. Well, not on the blog section, but the homepage menu, and I would share it on Facebook. But I'm trying my best to stay out of Facebook because Facebook has issues with me and the page for a couple of years now. So what I'm trying to do is for anybody who wants to know what's going to happen, when it's going to start, what's going to be the details about the fundraiser, what is it for. I do have a newsletter, um, and you could sign up on the newsletter. It should be in the description of the video, and if it's not in the description of the video, I'll post it there again. And if you go to our newsletter subscription and subscribe, you will be able to get updates when these things are posted online on the website or on YouTube. You should get some updates about it. And for anybody who wants to know like when we're going to start it or whatever, if you not subscribed to our YouTube page, you should subscribe now. The link can be found in the description of the video. It should be the first link, and you click it, you will automatically subscribe to our channel. and then you will be able to get any updates, because whenever that's going to go up on our website, I definitely want to make a video about it, inshallah. I have some other things I'm working on right now. This is why I haven't done any interviews with anybody else. I have a book that I'm working on, and I'm really trying to get the book out. And I have another book I'm trying to work on, and I'm really trying to do the 501c3. And I'm definitely busy. Basically, I'm definitely busy, but I'm really not trying to be a YouTuber. I'm really trying my best to not make this channel like regular YouTube on social media, where this is a means of money. My channel is not monetized. I don't have the subscribers, but I do share, uh, do live videos. These live videos also sometimes go on my other channel on YouTube, which I have a lot of subscribers, but I don't monetize the channel because I'm not trying to be a YouTuber who spend a lot of time making money on YouTube. This is not me. I don't have the appetite for it to keep up with the algorithm so you get views and things like that. I really don't have that appetite. I have that appetite to really construct something as an organization for dealing with Black American issues. That's where my appetite is at. YouTube one day might be here and be gone. YouTube one day might turn around and say, you know, all you guys on YouTube talk about Black people's issues. They might just get rid of your channel. So then what you gonna have? Those who's making a living off of YouTube, you know, you're gonna have issues. I'm not trying to be a YouTuber. I'm not trying to depend on um, non-Black people who own social media. I'm not trying to depend on them. I really want to build a non-profit organization to deal with Black people issues. I already have a team now. I picked up certain people, mashallah, a sister who's going to help me do the nonprofit organization. Some of you guys probably seen her already. I did an interview on her. She has her master's in business. So when things are, I get the opportunity, I'm definitely going to put the goal launch page up so we can see what the fundraiser is going to be for. And I already mentioned three phases. Phase one is to get the 501c3 and some training, right? Some training courses and material. It's a need, right? And phase two, inshallah, I have mentioned that phase two is going to be all about research about Black people, Blacks in America, the social issues, social structure, mental health, financial issues, um, medical health, women, Black men, African American, Muslim. No one really did any studies or research on the African American Muslim community, so I want to do that also. Some of the research related to systemic racism, economics, finances. Some of the books already out there with statistics and status, and the research. Some of them are a little bit biased towards Islam, so we need to do our own research. So that's going to be phase two. Can't get to phase two unless we're in phase one. Phase one is get the 501c3. That's going to cost money, and then get the research and training. That's going to that's cost money. And then after that, inshallah, we get that. Then we could talk about phase two, and we could talk about trying to get those who know how to get government grants and things like that to assist us. Right. So these are some of the things that at Black American Muslim Opinions that we are focusing on. I have a video up already. The video is talking about the donations. You could go to that video and you could look at it. I don't give the GoFund page or whatever because I'm in the middle of doing that right now. But I'm trying to finish one of my books before I go and deal with the website, because dealing with the website, I don't pay anybody to do the website. I do that on my own. Right? I have to do certain, it takes some time, you know, the writing out and things like that does take some time. So I really want to finish the book so I can push the book out so we can start focusing on phase one donation. So like I said, if you like this video, please like and share, and you could definitely leave a comment, or you could definitely contact us at Black American Muslim Opinions .com. You can also contact us, meaning on our website, or you could contact us on our Facebook page, and it's by Black American Muslim Opinions. Thank you.